everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate the 100 people that signed up for this live event. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to get you in and out. I ask you to grab a pen and a pad because I have a special guest. All my guests are special, but he's going to deliver some learning nuggets for us, and it's worthwhile of taking some notes. At any time, if you have any comments, you guys know where to go, to the comment section. We will answer them right here, right now, live. Again, thank you so much for your time and improving your leadership. This episode, as you know, is a series through my Your Leadership Sucks, which it doesn't. It's just a marketing tool. And this episode is called The Leaders Lounge, Raw Talk with guest Dr. Bobby Parmar. For the sake of this episode, we're going to call each other Anthony and Bobby per his request. Just a little bit about me, because I always have a lot of new people joining us every week or every time I have these episodes. My name is Dr. Anthony Perkins. My doctorate is in educational leadership. I've had a blessed career of 32 years in the education field, from a teacher, vice principal, to a director, retiring as a superintendent. Concurrently, I did 13 years as an assistant professor for Northern Arizona University. I did it part-time during all my busyness, and I taught leadership classes to graduate students. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get our guest on. Let's add him to the stage right here. Let's get this thing here. Boom, here we go. Sir, how you doing, Bobby? Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Wonderful to see you.
Great to see you again. You're coming to us live from Virginia, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm here in Charlottesville.
Here in Charlottesville.
East Coast.
Tell us please a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, fantastic. My name is Bobby Parmar. I'm a faculty member here at the Darden Business School, where I've been for 18 years. By training, I'm a social psychologist and a moral philosopher, and I work with lots of different MBA students and executives around the world on topics that are about like human-centered leadership, whether that's in decision-making, innovation, and just how to lead people. And that is really meaningful work for me. In addition, I'm the Associate Dean for Faculty Development, so I get to work with so many of our new faculty and help them transition to Darden, teach case method. And finally, with some of my colleagues, I run something called the Experiential Leadership Development Lab. And the idea behind the lab is, those of us who've been teaching leadership for a long time, it's one of those things that's really easy to talk about, but really hard to do. And so what happens in our lab is our MBA students, executives that we work with, come into the lab and they read a short half-page scenario or a page-long scenario. Maybe they have to mediate a contentious meeting, or they have to give someone difficult feedback, or they have to make a pitch to a very skeptical audience. And we hook them up with a couple different sensors. So we're measuring their level of stress through their heart rate, through their what's called galvanic skin response. When you're stressed, the pore in your skin opens ever so slightly to get your body ready to sweat. And we're also measuring their respiration. So when you're stressed, your breathing is much more shallow and choppy, like panting. And when you're relaxed, your breathing is kind of rhythmic and deep. So once they've read the scenario, and it takes like 3 minutes to hook them up to all the equipment, I have a group of actors that I've hired and trained to conduct the scenario with them. And, they make it difficult. They yell and they cry and they get upset and they push back, and everything in the lab is recorded. And so my participants get back a video file with their performance, the actor, but scrolling at the bottom are their physiological signals, their stress level. And so you can say, like, Anthony, you started so great and you had a great first line, and then they got angry and you fell apart, and let's try that again. And so that detailed coaching of leadership, getting people to see how they're doing, to build some self-awareness, and to get some reps in, has been really meaningful as an educator, and I think really effective for my students and for my executive participants.
Oh, so you do a bunch of nothing, right?
Yeah.
You are super busy, so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge. That is awesome. What is your definition of leadership?
One of the ways I think about leadership is that it's about building and maintaining relationships that produce common goods. And for me, the building and maintaining relationships part is important because leadership is inherently relational. I think there are lots of definitions of leadership that focus on an individual or focus on getting followers to do things. But for me, it's really about that interconnection between leaders and followers, between members of a team. In order to have that relationship work effectively, there has to be some self-regulation. I've got to choose how I react to things. I've got to be able to take other people's perspective and exercise empathy to try to understand their perspective. And this idea about a common good is that it's a two-way street, that what we do together, it's got to benefit us both and benefit maybe a third party that we're trying to, so if it's a teacher and a principal, they're trying to benefit students and parents and community members. And we don't want externalities on other relationships. And so I really think about leadership as a set of relational skills.
What's one leadership experience you've had that really changed your perspective on what it means to lead effectively?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Early on in my career, I think there's this sense that, when you're the leader, when you finally make it to that stage, when you're leading a team or leading a unit, that it's about you, that you get to direct people, you get to create the strategy, you get to tell people what to do. And I think very quickly you learn that real leadership is not about you, it's about others, right? It feels like it's about others. I had a colleague who used to say that, and it rung true. Like when I started to have more leadership in my role, it's like, actually, yeah, you're right. Leadership feels a lot more like it's about serving the needs of others. And one of the ways, like the specific ways that I think that showed up for me was, when you give people tasks to do, when it's about you, those are things that they experience as like someone else wants me to do this, versus the idea of talking about the tasks that we've got to do together in a way that motivates that person and motivates you to get them done. I've really come to believe that motivation is like the rocket fuel that gets things done in organizations. When you have people who are intrinsically motivated, they go the extra mile, they leave no stone unturned, they're willing to do whatever it takes to reach that end goal together. And in contrast, when people aren't as motivated, when it feels like they're made to do something they don't want to do, they don't move as quickly, they might cut corners, the quality of their work isn't as great. And so, that leadership lesson of it's not about telling people what to do, it's about helping people find why they're motivated to do this task so they can do their best work.
If we get into the research of that influence, it clearly says that if I tell you to do something, you're probably not going to do it. But if I ask you to do it, if I ask for your input, if I ask you to co-create, you're most likely to do it. So great.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it.
Great words of reminding leaders of if you're going to tell, you're probably going to get a lot of resistance, a lot of pushback. When things aren't going as planned, how do you keep your confidence and lead your team through those tough times?
We've all been through those times, right, where you're not getting the outcomes that you wanted to get, or the team maybe isn't gelling in the way that you wanted it to gel. And those are moments that really test, I think like a crisis exposes all the structures that you've built before the crisis. And to me, those structures really come down to like the strength of those relationships. It's about, I think when a crisis hits, it's really easy to turn inward, to turn away from others and to try to focus on yourself, maybe try to avoid blame. But it takes some practice. I've learned that those are the moments when you have to turn towards others and really be vulnerable and be willing to admit your mistakes. But ultimately, like keeping your confidence when things aren't going according to plan, to me, comes from connecting back to my motivators. And sometimes that's achieving a common purpose or getting good at a specific skill, connecting with people that I care about, making sure that the work that I'm doing is meaningful and impactful. And when I remind myself and my team about why we're doing what we're doing, we can usually find our way through some of the more shaky periods. The other thing to watch out for here is it's really easy in a crisis to make some attributions that are not as effective, like, man, we're just not good at this, or maybe this isn't the right strategy, or there are things that can paralyze you, and you just want to watch out for that kind of negative thinking. You want realistic thinking. You want to know about things that aren't working or things that can work better, but you want to watch out for that becoming something that is paralyzing.
All right, so you catch that, watching out for that negative thinking. We know it's going to creep in from time to time, but as strong, effective leaders, being realistic and having that positive, let's make it happen. Let's figure this out. We can get there. Let's commit. Let's not be interested. Great words. This next question hits on self-awareness. Now, I'm worried about the world in this area, even outside of leadership, because I see lately, for some reason, a lot of people who just do not understand that there's other people in the world. That they have to become self-aware beyond themselves, that there's other people in the world. And I see them everywhere, restaurants, grocery stores, on the freeway especially. So now that I beat up a lot of people and they love me so much, I'm going to ask you a leadership self-awareness question. Self-awareness is often mentioned as a key to leadership. How do you practice self-awareness in your own leadership role, and how has it impacted your success?
Such a good question. I think it's a critical leadership question to really understand, what is it like to be on the other side of me? And that's a hard question to answer, right? Because for most of us, we experience the world through our own bodies and from our own experience. But one thing that I've found to be really helpful is watching yourself on camera. It's no surprise given the way that I talked about the lab and the setup, but there are times where sometimes I'm leading a meeting and maybe it's on Zoom or Teams, or one of my classes is recorded and you watch it back, and it's painful to watch, right? Like, no one likes to hear their own voice when it's not coming out of their head. It's hard to watch yourself on camera, but man, you learn so much. You learn about, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have asked that question that way, or I should spend more time on this side of the room. And I mean, there's no better way of building self-awareness than to try to take a third-party perspective. And in this day and age, this recording technology is virtually free. It's on every laptop and every smartphone and so many devices. As painful as it can be, it is really worthwhile to find a critical moment to record yourself, watch it back, and say, what could I have done differently? What are my strengths? How can I lean into those more? But it's a hard thing. It takes a little. You got to build some thick skin, but it's worth it.
I love all of your points there. Did you hear that, audience? Really taking an inside look at yourself, that mirror, that watching that video of yourself, and making sure when you're leading, are you asking the right questions? Are you giving great examples? Proximity, when you are leading, are you walking around the room? I was in this one session as a superintendent years ago, and they had this, I believe he was an ex-FBI agent type thing, and he did it perfectly. He had like 3 points in the room, and he would go to point A, then point B, then point C. Then he would rotate right back around, and then he will look you dead in the eye wherever he, in the vicinity he was at. And I caught that, quickly, that he had a little plan, but it worked. It's just like when you're up in front of people and they ask you to do that left, center, right type thing. You don't know people are looking at you, but it creates the illusion that you are looking at people. So there's a lot of little techniques. I encourage you to take the points from Dr. Parmar here. You can go on Google and it tells you how to be more self-aware also as a leader. But that self-reflection is key. We always think in our world we're perfect, but we got to put ourselves in the audience's world, our teammates' world, and feel and think and see what they're seeing in us. Technology, with the rapid changes in technology and the workplace culture, how do you see leadership evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you preparing for that?
It's a really important question. There's so many ways that technology is impacting workplace culture, from some people being able to work remotely to the use of AI. But the one that concerns me the most, I think, is information and social media bubbles. And when people consume, whether it's media or information from a very select source, and then we come into organizations and expect people to collaborate, they're effectively coming from different worlds. And in order to collaborate together, to build a relationship, it just makes it so much harder when you think you're saying something that everyone would agree with, but it turns out that half the team doesn't agree with you. And you've really got to figure out a way to build common ground when technology is like stripping that common ground apart. And I think it's a lot easier, for example, for things to be taken out of context, for if something isn't said, people can fill in the blanks with maybe things that are counterproductive. It just takes a lot more work to build relationships when there's so many alternatives for people's attention. And I think good leadership is about trying to connect with people and really help them share a worldview and share a set of goals. And if we can't do that, then leadership becomes harder. And so to me, those are some of the challenges that I think we need to work on.
In the audience out there, we all use technology during our leadership tenure. It could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be here and there. And we have to, for an example, just to set this up, there's a lot of little buttons I have to push literally on the keyboard here to get this just so. And what is my backup plan if the technology fails me? So I always have a little backup plan in the form of a PowerPoint or talking points. But having that, I've seen a lot of leaders in the past get up in front of large audiences, and that technology sometimes fails. And so what do? Especially if you do something like Cahoots, where you're trying to get input from the audience on their personal devices, and that doesn't follow through because of the bandwidth or internet issues, etc. So using it, but knowing it may have some problems, and having a plan B and a plan C is always helpful. Continuous learning is a big part of leadership growth. How do you make time for your own development, and what practices do you follow to improve yourself as a leader?
Awesome. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Continuous learning is critical. So a couple things that I found helpful. I tend to travel a decent amount, and I find a flight is like a really great time to reflect. And so when I'm sitting on a flight, I'll sit there and think through, like, how did things go for the last couple of weeks? Am I leading in the way that I thought I should be leading? Where did I mess up? So it's typically like a great place for me to do an after action review, right? What did I expect would happen over the course of the last couple of weeks with my team? What actually happened? Why did it happen? What should I do differently the next couple of weeks? So there's something about being up in the air that just makes that really conducive, for me at least. And then the second thing that I've really loved, and I encourage so many of my students to do as well, is to keep a leadership journal. And what I mean by that is phrases, techniques, things that you see in meetings that you're in, or maybe it's a TV show or a movie you're watching, or you run into someone and they ask this great question, and just kind of keeping a journal of those things is powerful, because then you can come back to them and say, oh yeah, I was watching this reality TV show and someone gave feedback in this way that was so kind and direct at the same time. And how do I do that? How do I take that into work? I want to be kind and I want to be direct. And so just keeping a journal of phrasing to me is really helpful. So those two things, like making time, like airplanes are a great place for me to think and reflect, but then also just having a journal of practices.
Audience, in addition to getting feedback from your teammates, from the audience, to self-improve, that reflection piece is just as powerful, having that leadership self-reflection, and then making those adjustments, again, because we always think in our world things are perfect. But when we reflect, when we get that feedback, then we can see, ooh, okay, let me tweak this. Let me say that next time. Watch by proximity. Just those little minute, I call micro moves, can really help you out to really level up your leadership. So always evolving, always looking for something to advance and improve yourself is key. As we talk about leadership, what's one takeaway you want other leaders and aspiring leaders to remember after this live event?
I think we tend to believe that leaders are born, right? That someone has the gift, the magic to be a good leader or not. And unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. Someone might be a really good leader of a certain group and then get promoted and struggle. I think for me, a really important lesson is that leadership is a craft. It's just something we can get better at. We can practice intentionally. We can reflect on. We can learn from others when we watch them practice their craft as well. And it's a lifelong thing, right? So leadership is a craft, and we should get to work honing that craft.
There you go, folks. Continuous learning, reflecting, getting feedback, figuring out how I can get to that next level. setting those goals. Maybe by the end of the year, I'm doing X as a leader. The next year after that, I'm doing Y. The year after that, I'm doing Z. Now you got XYZ going for you, sort of to speak. All right. How can anyone get in touch with you or see all your great work? Are you on social media anywhere?
I'm on LinkedIn. That's a great place to find me. I also have a faculty page at Darden. So if you Google me, my information comes up and you can contact me that way as well.
Do you do speaking gigs, trainings, anything like that? Or
Always, yes,
okay.
always. That's right.
So
And so
Dr.
usually through
Parmar is
Darden Executive
available, folks.
Education, I work with lots of different organizations around the world, which is really meaningful.
So we have a really good expert here. He gave us some key advice. I hope you take away some things. I'm going to put us to the side and do a little closure here and get the audience. Again, if you have any questions, audience, there now's the time. We're down to probably the final 2, 3, 4 minutes to get your questions in now. And so we can answer them right now live. So let me scoot us over here. And I'm going to challenge our audience members. If you're catching this live or recording, what are some actionable takeaways? What are some actionable takeaways? How can you take 1 or 2 learning nuggets today from this message, from this live event, and lead immediately with? How can you develop a strategy from it? Keep that strategy simple but effective. Maybe you do A, B, C. Maybe you do steps 1, 2, 3. Keep it simple but effective. And then making that impact tomorrow within 24 hours before you forget this information and you get out there in your busy world and this information is gone forever. So think about that one thing, those 1 or 2 things. You can lead immediately, develop a strategy real quick, a simple but effective one, and make an impact by tomorrow. Future topics. I'm putting together some future topics. If you have any suggestions, I would love to take those in. I take requests, kind of like a DJ. I'm going to do future topics will consist of leadership, self-care, the 7 leadership villains that may be holding you back. Leadership, is it your name that's getting you by or your leadership game that's getting you moving you forward? So I'm going to do some live events surrounded by those topics. My newest book is coming out. Finally, I'm so happy. It's going to be in late April of this year, and it's called Suck 10 Micro Moves. Remember that word, micro moves, to elevate you from suck to significance. And you can scan the code. I have a 50% off promotional code right here, right now. The first month, I will kind of give it away 50% off to get it out there. All you got to do is type in when you order it, Buffalo Bills, my football team, 6-7, and it will give you 50% off. So I'm happy to finally launch that. Now, here's a little courage ladder that's out there, and to get you started. So where you see the words getting started, put your goal right there. What is your leadership goal? And then simply put action 1 at the bottom of the ladder, action 2, action 3, action 4. And then just go after those action steps to get you to your goal. You can keep it simple but effective just to get you off the ground. Also, reflective questions. We talked about reflective thinking a little bit ago. What specific goal do you want to accomplish? How will you know you have reached the goal, the measurement piece? A lot of organizations fail to put in that measurement piece. How do you know you're 30%, 50%, 80% there or 100% completed? And then are there any barriers keeping you from reaching that goal, and are you smashing them, overcoming them? Another reflective question, set of questions: what's working, what's not working, what needs immediate attention can get you off the ground. So 3 things there, that courageous ladder, the 2 reflective questions will get you started. One big thing, I need you to be a now leader, folks. I'm going to challenge you right here. I'm going to push you off your comfort couch, off that comfort cliff. What's one big thing you can take away and do within 24 hours to level up that leadership? And you guys knew I do some consulting. I would love to get out there and really help your organization with my 32 years experience. As I tell everyone, I have a lot of experience to share, but I still have a lot to learn. And I do leadership coaching, organizational training, and inspirational speaking. And I would love to partner with your organization. How do you get in contact with me? I'm on LinkedIn also, Dr. Anthony J. Perkins. My email, Dr. Perkins, and then my website, where you can contact me and book me from there. I'm also available on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. You can find all these episodes on there, the live events. I also do inspirational videos that are on there. You can find me under Dr. Anthony J. Perkins at LinkedIn, or excuse me, at Instagram at Perkup67, and on Facebook, Anthony J. Perkins. All right, I am all out of breath, and I want to thank my guest here. Let's get him. Let's see. There it is, right there. So many buttons to push here. Thank you. Any final words, Bobby? Any final words?
It was great to spend some time with you. I hope this was helpful to people, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you to Bobby. I really appreciate everyone's time. Please, again, challenge you right now. Take one learning nugget within 24 hours, implement it into your daily practices. Everyone, God bless you, and I'll see you soon. If Dr. Parmar, if you can hang tight, we'll do a debrief.